All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Good afternoon to you. We are super excited. On behalf of College Prep University, Dr. Corgi, myself, George Mela, and Dr. K will be presenting on what the next steps are after you've SIR. So you may be asking, what is SIR? It stands for the Student Intent to Register. That means that you committed to a school. So this is for the seniors out there. This is really great information for the juniors and underclassmen. So congratulations. All righty. So congrats. What school will you be attending? So be sure to tell us in the chat box. We know that not all of our students were able to attend this webinar and some of our families had prior commitments. However, let's go ahead and shout you out because this is extremely exciting for the seniors, for the class of 2020. And for my underclassmen, this is going to be you in a very short amount of time. So I see that we got accepted into a handful of the Cal States, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton. All right, all of the UCs, USC, Chapman, Pepperdine, University of San Diego, that's the private school, some out-of-state schools such as the University of Texas, UIUC, University of Michigan, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech, and also a handful of the Ivy League. So congratulations to all of you. Families, we cannot be more excited to have been a part of this journey and to support you along the way. So now that we've committed, there are quite a few things that are not usually published that have some complexities to them. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Corgi, and she's gonna get us started.
All right, hello everybody. Congratulations. This is Dr. Corgi, and this very briefly on our agenda. We're going to be talking about next steps for May and June. Next steps once school gets out for over the summer in July and August. We're going to talk about the possibility of taking a gap year in this unique situation that we have this year. And then we'll do Q&A. So as George was saying, you know, some people are still a little bit unfamiliar with what the term SIR is. So that's basically just the term that's used in, you know, the world of college admissions to designate when a student has committed to a particular university. It's also known sometimes as decision day. May 1st is usually decision day, SIR day, but we understand that there are several hundred colleges across the country that have extended their SIR deadline or their decision day deadline into June, or possibly even later. So some of you may still be contemplating where you would like to go. You were given a little bit of extra time to decide. So once you do decide, or if you have already made those decisions, we're gonna take some time today to go ahead and talk about those next steps. Okay, so May through June, these are the items that I'm going to be talking about. These are things that you want to finish by the end of your school year. So for some of you, that's just a couple of weeks. Others are, you know, their school year is ending into the 1st and 2nd week of June, but, you know, around that time frame. So these are things you want to do right now. Okay, so first off is accepting financial aid. A lot of students and families are very surprised that you actually have to say, yes, I would like the financial aid that you are offering me. It's not uncommon for students to receive a bill, you know, for payment due, you know, early into the semester, and then everyone's very confused because they're thinking, wait, I thought I got a scholarship, or, you know, I thought my student loan was going to cover this, or, you know, whatever your financial aid offer is. So you do need to go into your student portal and accept your aid. That's everything: scholarships, grants, loans, whatever it is that you have sitting on the table. So even if you received a merit scholarship that wasn't based on any type of financial need, you do need to go into your portal and accept that so that it's applied to your student account. So make sure you log into your portal, accept those financial aid offers. For the most part, you know, if you were doing everything on time and on schedule, your financial aid offers should be sitting there. If you are doing some negotiating, or maybe you are planning to do some appeals based on some changes in your family's financial situation, you just need to keep going back to that portal and looking for updates. But just so you're aware that you do need to go in and accept that financial aid. Okay, the next topic I want to talk about is housing. All right, so this is the big question. Maybe some of you have already made these decisions, but I know, this year is just so weird. Everything is just very different. So some of you may still be deciding, what do I want to do regarding my living situation next year for college? So first of all, you need to decide, are you going to live on campus or not? And that's for students who are both leaving, their local area and moving away to college, or for students who are going to stay close to home. Even if you're going to a college just maybe, 20 or 30 minutes away, you do still have the option of living on campus. So whatever your situation is, whether your school's 5 miles away or 500 miles away or 5,000 miles away, you need to decide, are you going to live on campus? Are you going to get your own apartment? What are you going to do for housing? Are you going to live at home? So what you want to be looking at now and making a decision, sooner rather than later is, are you going to pursue on-campus housing? So the first thing you want to check for that is, what are your rules and regulation regarding housing for the college that you are going to attend? Some colleges actually require their freshmen to live on campus. Unless you live in the local area, sometimes they'll give some exemptions, but if you're moving away to a school, or I'm sorry, if you're going away to a school that has mandatory freshman housing, then you need to make sure that you're putting in all the paperwork for that, because even though it is required, they still have you complete most of the legwork, like putting in your application, going through the process of, deciding what type of room you want. Do you want your own room? You're going to do a double, a triple? Do you want to live in any type of specialty housing? Do you want to, go through a process to get paired with a roommate? Or do you just want to do random selection? Whatever it is that your school is offering you, you want to be very aware of your options. So a lot of students are really debating this topic right now, again, because students are, concerned about the COVID-19 situation, and that's very understandable. But what we're recommending is that you would, try to proceed, as if everything's going to be in a better situation next year. It's better to have your housing secured now, and be able to go ahead and move forward with those plans, rather than regretting, not having made arrangements for housing, and then it ends up, at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, that seems to be going back to normal somewhat, and now you've regretted, your decision not to take part in that. So check your student portal. At this point, everything is in your student portal. See what your policy is for housing, see what the application process is, the timeline, the deposits. There's a lot involved there. But you should be looking at that now. Don't wait until the summer or right before school starts, because if your college has limited housing, you just may not end up being able to get something on campus. Okay, next is orientation and registration. Once you've committed to a school, you will start receiving your information about attending registration and how to register for classes in the fall. So there is a lot of information to learn. Sorry, I'm just noticing that on my slide that we have the same information on both sides. Sorry about that. That's just a typo on our end. But most orientations actually happen very early in the summer. Some can start in, early June. It really depends on the school. But it seems like most colleges are either going to postpone their orientations or possibly hold them online. So again, check your student portal and make sure that you have the information about when these events are happening. Most colleges will combine orientation and registration together. So part of attending orientation is registering for your fall classes. All right. So make sure that you are prepared to register for your fall classes. Again, this is something you want to be thinking about now. On the third bullet there, it says how to prepare for orientation. You want to be sending all of your documents, all of your final documents to your college as soon as possible. So if you have your AP scores from last year, you should go ahead and send those over now. I know you're still going to be waiting on scores from this year's test, but if you can get last year's test, especially anything in math and English, that's going to set you up in a much better position to move forward with those advanced level classes when it's time to register. So send your AP scores, any college transcripts you might have from dual enrollment courses. Again, you want to get all those credits lined up and on your official record so that when you go to orientation or registration, your proper class level is there. I know many of you accumulate almost enough or even actually enough units to begin college as a sophomore, not a freshman. And so those can, give you some advantages when it comes to registration and the types of class that you'll be able to enroll in. So go ahead and send those transcripts now for anything that you have already completed. And then anything that's going to be finished up, this summer, for example, AP scores, those usually don't come out till July. Or if you're taking any summer college courses, get those transcripts in as soon as possible. The last item to make sure that you're ready for orientation and registration is to make sure that you have completed any required placement tests. Not very many colleges are utilizing placement exams anymore, but you want to check with your school. So again, check your portal. And a lot of times, if you have high enough SAT scores or AP scores, you can be exempt from these placement tests, but the college needs to have those official records in your file. Okay, next is finishing senior year strong. I know this is, high time for, in the traditional sense, for senioritis. I think senioritis probably started about a month ago when everybody was sent home. But you want to make sure that you hold on to your conditional offer of admission from your university. Every offer of admission is conditional. So go back into your portal, go back into your email, reread your conditions of admission. All right, most colleges are going to have three things that they want students to do in order to keep their admission. First is graduate from high school. Second is to maintain a certain level of GPA for your senior year. All right, so that could be maintaining what your overall GPA is or maintaining at least a 3.0, whatever your school designates. And then third is usually colleges will require that you have no failing grades, no D's or F's senior year. So make sure that you're not falling behind or falling low on any of those items. So just make sure that you finish strong. And again, because of the COVID-19, some of these conditions for admission may be amended. For example, the University of California is accepting grades of pass or credit for the remaining A through G classes that you need to finish up to maintain your admission. So just make sure you're aware of policies that may have changed due to the health situation. And then finally, you want to make sure that you know what you need to do to request your final transcript from your high school. Your counselors, I'm sure, are being very proactive about this. They may have already sent out information about what you need to do to request your transcript from home. I'm sure there's some sort of online portal being set up for you to just go in and indicate where you will be attending college and where your counselor needs to send your final transcript. But make sure you do that. Again, put in your request before graduation. Don't wait until after. Go ahead and take care of that now. All right, and then finally, you want to be planning for this summer. Don't just kind of let summer start without a plan. There is still plenty of time for you to achieve some good things, make some progress in, whatever it is that you are wanting to make progress in before you start your first year of college. So first off is you want to check with your college to see if there are any requirements or opportunities for you. Again, this summer being a little bit different, traditional summer bridge or summer transition programs may or may not be available, or they may be moved to online. Some students are required to participate in a summer bridge program. For others, it's just an extra opportunity for you to get a bit of a head start. So check and see what your college is offering. Otherwise, it's really going to, depend on your personal priorities or interest. So what is it that you can do this summer to, again, make progress? You've been on a really nice roll as far as achievement over these last few years in high school, and you've earned your way into a great college. So you want to keep that momentum going and do something substantial with your summer. So I think with that, yes, I'm going to pass it over or back to George, who can talk about more planning or next steps for the months of July and August.
All right, Dr. Corgi, thank you so much. So I will be going over, like mentioned, the 2 months of July and August, what that looks like with online classes, transportation, housing options, getting into details about family expectations, and then planning for the fall. So during the month of July, it is critical that you go ahead and understand what the possibility of online classes will look like for the upcoming fall semester. So will there be distance learning at your school? Is there going to be a blended model? Will all of the classes be available? So that's something that's very important to note. There are some classes that are very difficult to do online, so there may be options to do it on campus, and that will look very different than ever before. And so you want to make sure that you know what the expectations are moving forward, and you want to especially check what classes are available, because if it stays online, you want to make sure that you can set yourself up for success. Now, transportation, this is one of those things that are often overlooked when going to college. So you want to have a conversation and ask yourself, will you be getting a car? Will you be using your school transit system? A number of schools will have free transportation because they'll have buses, they'll have shuttles. It can be difficult to go from one side of campus to the other, so those have been very beneficial for our students. You also want to see what is and isn't allowed. A lot of schools don't allow freshmen to have their cars on campus the very first year. And another important thing about transportation is parking is not always free, right? So even if you are allowed to bring a car on campus your first year, you want to go ahead and check what type of permit you need. There may be different kinds. The costs may vary depending on regular parking, preferred parking, and things of that nature. So this is one of those things that is often overlooked, that we're going to encourage students and families to make sure they get the questions answered as soon as possible. Now, housing. So after you've kind of identified what's the best housing option and what you're going to do moving forward, you want to ask yourself, what are the essentials to moving in, right? I like to use the metaphor with my families. This is like a really long camping trip for your students, okay? So when you go camping, if you're going for a day or two, you may not need as many essentials. If you are in a cabin, you definitely don't need too much. But if you're going and you're gonna have to set up your tent and there's no other furniture, you need a lot more essentials and you have more necessities. And so you wanna go ahead and have that conversation with your students, prepare to create a list of what you may need and will need to replenish and purchase yourself. Maybe some things that you never thought could disappear because maybe your parents are providing those things, such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, just simple things that maybe you may forget, right? So don't let that be you. Another thing to take note is you want to make sure you identify when the move-in days are. Typically, they're a few days up to a week prior to classes starting, so that's very critical. But also move-out dates. There's a lot of students that we've been talking with, and they've been telling us, wait, I didn't know that I had to leave during breaks or that I wasn't able to stay here year round. And that's true for a lot of places and a lot of institutions. So you want to make sure that you can identify when you can be on campus and when you have to leave. You also want to ask yourself, did your options include dining, or will you need to learn how to cook? So is there a kitchen within your housing option, or is there a common area where you can prepare or heat up your meals? And then the last but not least, one of the funny ones, the ones that parents always get a chuckle out of, is who will pick up after you? Who's going to pick up your mess? So if you're dorming on campus and you're sharing your housing option with a few fellow roommates and none of you like to clean up, well, you might want to think about that moving forward. Alrighty. Now, towards the month of August, and as we begin to embark on our transition, you will want to have a conversation about your family's communication expectations. And this is kind of broken up into two parts. I think it's important that you ask as soon as possible what things will look like after high school, after you graduate and get your diploma, your very hard-earned and well-deserved diploma, and what your expectations will be as you begin your college life. So will there be the same level of restrictions? Will you have a curfew? Will you still be expected to do certain things? How much time will you have to prepare for your academic studies? So it's very important that you have this conversation, although it may not sound too exciting. I think it's very important that you sit down with your parents and you outline what the expectations are moving forward. Okay, and then another thing to talk about is the finances. So what will that look like? Who's going to pay for everything? Did financial aid come in with enough offerings in terms of scholarships, grants, work study, loans, etc.? Or will you need to get a job? So you want to have those conversations, and you want to go ahead and have clear expectations. Will you be self-supporting, or will your parents help contribute? Will there be a mix? Is there an expectation for you to come up with a third of the remainder amount of money necessary, and they come up with the 2/3? We don't know, but that's why we are encouraging you as parents to have the conversation and students to also engage in this process. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. K.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I want to thank you all for taking the time with joining us today. I'm excited to see so many people on and get this information. I want to thank George and Dr. Corgi for sharing their parts. I'm going to spend some time talking about gap year. So I've had a number of students ask me, like, things are going kind of crazy right now. I don't know what life is going to look like on campus, or if I should go to campus, or just sort of a lot of confusion around like the current state in terms of enrolling for fall 2020. So I'm going to answer this question by providing you with some information, and then I'm also going to give you some suggestions based on sort of the stance as where CPU is with as it pertains to a gap year. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to provide you with a definition of what gap year is. So a gap year is an opportunity where you take a break between high school or employment in order to get a deepened perspective of your interests or your awareness of what you may want to do later. So on this next slide, it's actually a diagram that really breaks this down so you can see it closer. So as you're thinking about should you take a gap year, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you love? What is it that the world needs? What can you get paid for doing? And what are you good at? That sort of tells us, where your profession may be, where your passions lie, what your mission is, and then also sort of your vacation. and that leads to your purpose. So when we're thinking about should you take a gap year, you do need to take some time to reflect on what these things are. What do you enjoy doing? If you're going to take a gap year to watch Netflix, that may not necessarily be the most appropriate use of your time. So we really want to make sure that it's aligned with your purpose as it pertains to what you would be doing after the gap year. All right, so when you think about taking a gap year, the two sort of things that I want you to think about. When you're taking a gap year, you are prolonging the inevitable, because if your goal is to go to college, you are delaying that time period. Now, to the contrary of that, it may also help cement your college and career interests. So when we think about what that'll look like, you may do something over your gap year. For instance, one of the things that I really want to do is open a coffee shop. I imagine running away to Spain and working at a coffee shop and being able to learn a lot about coffee and coffee beans. So you may be able to do something that embeds and cements what you want to do later. Now, in terms of CPU stance as it relates to a gap year, we think that a gap year is a good option if you are correctly prepared and have a workable plan. So when I'm working with students, or any of us are working with students, and they're like, I just want to take a gap year to relax, I'm like, I don't think you should take a gap year. But if you are taking a gap year with the hope or the intention of accessing a new opportunity, deepening your investment in a particular interest, and things of that nature, then it may be appropriate. But you do want to have a plan that you're working towards if you are thinking about a gap year. So again, I've sort of mentioned this, but I want to go in this. During your gap year, you may be working. You may take advantage of an opportunity to go to Guam and teach students English. You may take advantage of an opportunity to go to Costa Rica and volunteer. So you could actually have an opportunity where you're going somewhere and you're working and you're getting real world experience. You may, just considering the current context of where we are now, you may be able to work with one of your parents at their job and get some real hands-on experience in terms of running the family business, and are, building out a special life program in that time off. You may spend that time volunteering, doing research. You In the past, you would have been traveling, and maybe in the future you'll be traveling. So utilizing those experiences again to gain focus and concentration on what do I love, what am I good at, what can I get paid for, and what the world needs. So really sort of tying that back to what your overall goal is. If someone tells me like, oh, I'm interested in architecture, and they spend some time, over their gap year traveling and being able to see some of the great architecture of the world, that sounds appropriate. It sounds like I'm going into the world and I'm studying for something that I want to do, and I'm deepening my interest for that particular thing. So whatever it is that you would be doing during this gap year, it's really important that it connects back to your overarching goal as it relates to college and career, and that you're not just taking this time off just to take a break. All right, so things to consider before taking a gap year. So the premise of the presentation is that most of you, I'm assuming just based on the number of colleges that you said you're going to, you have a plan to go to college come fall 2020. Now, some of you are like, maybe I need to take some time off. So before you decide that you're going to take a gap year and maybe explore the world or do all of those other things, it's really important that you check with the college that you've SIR to see if you could actually defer your enrollment. So deferring your enrollment means I was accepted to this school and I'm letting them know that I want to wait until fall 2021 in order to start school. So I don't want to start this fall coming up. So some schools may allow you to do that, and some schools may not allow you to do that. But it's really important that you check with the school to see if it's even possible. If it is possible to defer your enrollment, you want to make sure that you complete the steps necessary in order to defer it. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat to the whole plan in terms of you deepening your skill set and your interest. Going to community college does not count as taking a gap year. Going to community college means I've now started college and I am going to start college at community college and have to transfer. So you want to make sure, again, you're communicating with your schools. It's okay to take community college classes while you're still a high school student, but come May or June, you'll have graduated and you won't be a high school student anymore. So you don't want to be taking classes during this gap year period time if you plan on attending the school that you originally SIR'd to. So what will you do? I think that it's really important that as you try to figure out whether it's appropriate or not for you to take a gap year, that you seek guidance. So if you're undecided, you should definitely talk to somebody about what the possibilities could be in terms of taking a gap year and how that could affect your overall plan. If you haven't applied to college because you knew that you wanted to take a gap year, I also suggest that you reach out to someone who can sort of help you through that process. I've read a number of applications when I read for a university, and I had students who took a gap year, and they were really able to maximize their time and do things that were interesting and that added value to them as applicants for the schools that they were going to. So if that is the case where you've decided already that you are going to take a gap year, I suggest that you seek guidance in terms of finding someone who can help your game plan make sense for your overall purpose of applying to college once you plan to return. Now we're wrapping up. I want to tell you a little bit about us here at CPU. So at CPU, we are really, our fundamental principle is to make sure that we provide people with timely and accurate information so that they can make informed decisions. We truly believe that when parents have the information and they know what's going on, they can decide this is the best path for me, but they need to have that information. One of the things that we do is we give this information out free and readily available. So you can follow us on all of our social media handles. You can join our Facebook group. It's for parents and students. You can drop questions in there as it pertains to different things that you may have questions about for admissions, and we'll answer all of those things. Something that makes us specifically unique as a program that works with students as they navigate towards college is that we are 100% virtual in our interaction with students. So while some people are getting used to this notion of being online due to COVID-19, this is actually how we operate as business as usual. So we have advisors who are really here to work with students based on whatever package they select. If you want more details about that, check out our website on the package page, and then you can do that. For our staff, they are trained by people who train in the industry. Both myself, George, and Dr. Corgi all train other educators as it pertains to college admissions and helping students navigate the process. So that is something that makes us uniquely different than a lot of other organizations that do this work. After this webinar is over, we are going to provide you with a list of resources, and we're also going to provide you with a flyer of the other webinars that we have coming up. I urge you to join. I was excited to see today that this webinar literally almost maxed out. I think we can only fit like 2 or 3 more people into this meeting. So it is something that is like moving and happening, and people want the information, but my big suggestion is that you want to be able to move into action when it comes to the information that you're getting. All right, this is the slide with some of the resources that we covered today. Again, you're going to receive that, so you don't need to copy it out or say anything about or try to write everything. The one thing that I do want to note is that on the resource list that we're going to send you, you can actually utilize that link and it'll take you directly to our Facebook group. So if you are interested and you do have follow-up questions and you want to stay connected with us, definitely follow us on Facebook. I am now going to turn it back over to George. He is going to facilitate the Q&A section.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. K. Lots of great information about gap year. And I think one thing to know about a gap year is that in years past, it may not have been like the go-to option, but again, because of our situation, this is definitely a valuable and a really good opportunity to take into consideration. I also want to mirror that we here are extremely excited and we want to celebrate with you. There's so many people and so many students getting into great schools. We also have great questions coming in. There's one specifically that I think I'm going to have Dr. K answer. Here it is. So it's, do colleges look at a gap year in a negative light?
So I think that's actually a really great question. So do colleges look at a gap year in a negative light? The answer to that, in short, is that it really depends. It depends on how you're utilizing your time during that gap year period. I've worked with students in the past who utilized their gap year period to facilitate research that they were interested in, to do apprenticeships with people and who work at medical facilities outside of the country. So it matters what you're doing during that gap year. If you're taking time off just for the sake of taking time off because you worked really hard in high school and you do nothing over that year, colleges are kind of want to know, well, what were you doing? So it matters what you do with the time during the gap year if you do take it. If you sort of need some help understanding and facilitating that, again, I urge you to seek assistance and help so that you're able to utilize that time wisely.
Nice, that was great. Okay, another really good one here is, should I still be paying my deposit for housing since things are so unsure? So that's a really great question. In short, yes, 100% yes. You want to go ahead and position yourself to have that opportunity. And if things were to happen and were to get canceled, then you can go ahead and try to work something out with the financial aid office or with admissions, with the housing department. But in short, you want to go ahead and still pay your deposit so you can guarantee that you will have the available space. And if things change, as they've been changing quite frequently, then your school will notify you, and you'll take the necessary steps to kind of make that adjustment. But yes, do not just omit any deposits, and that goes for the other deposits you're considering as well. Make sure that you still go ahead and get those in. All right. Another really good question, and I think a lot of students have been asking us outside the webinars as well, is how important are my grades this semester?
Hi, I'll go ahead and jump in on this one. Your grades are very important in that they are going to secure and finalize your admission. As I mentioned earlier, all offers of admission are conditional, so it really depends on the school. Some colleges, not a lot, but there's a good number of them that they want you to maintain that really strong GPA that you've achieved so far. So if you were getting mostly A's, they expect you to keep that up all the way through to the end. Some colleges, and the vast majority of them, just really want you to maintain, a level of, seriousness with your classes. If your grades drop a little bit for most schools, that's going to be okay. And when I say drop, I mean, nothing definitely lower than a C. If you start getting a D or an F in anything, then that's when you're really in trouble. But if you get a couple of B's, that's not going to be that much of a problem. But you just want to make sure that you are confirming that with your college to make sure that you are aware of what their not only expectation is, but their actual requirements. What happens over the summer is, all colleges require that you send them a final high school transcript to show that you've graduated, and they actually have people that sit and look at every single transcript and do a GPA calculation. And, unfortunately, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of admission offers that are what they call rescinded over the summer because students don't keep up their academics. So just don't go there. Don't be, in that category of risking it. Finish strong. Make sure that you are completing whatever it is that you need to complete to get your pass or credit grades in those classes where that's an option. Making sure you're maintaining, mostly A's and B's, and then you should be fine.
Awesome. Yes, you've got this. Keep it going. Thank you, Dr. Corgi. Okay. Oh, this one's a good one. So, can I change the school I've already committed to?
I'll go ahead and jump in on this one again. Actually, yes, you can, but it's a bit of a process. So what colleges expect you to do is pick one and stick with it. The most common reason for changing your mind after you have officially SIR'd to a school would be that you were offered a spot of admission off of a wait list for another college. This is actually quite common. So say you do the University of California, for example. Say you decided to go to UC San Diego, but you were waitlisted at UC Berkeley. So you SIR to San Diego, and then maybe in the middle of June, you get notified from Berkeley that actually they can, there's a spot open, they're offering you admission, then you definitely can cancel your SIR at San Diego and then change it and commit to Berkeley. Now, most colleges you will have to forfeit whatever SIR deposit was required. Usually it's, $100, couple $100. It's not like you're losing a ton of money, but if you do choose to change, you will be out that fee. Now, if you are simply, changing your mind, it just depends on what your deadline was to begin with. If you missed the SIR deadline at a school that you got admitted to, you usually cannot go back later and say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind and now I want to go to this school instead of that school. That usually does not happen. But usually the wait list scenario is the most common. And again, that happens quite frequently all throughout the summer.
Okay, great. So now we have another question, and it says, my kid really needs help planning for his future. How can you help?
I think that that's a really great question to ask us. One of the things that I can just say in short that we do is we offer a different variety of packages for clients based on student need and intensive level. So you can go over and you can take a look at our website, collegeprepu.org, on the package page, and you can sort of look at the examples. And then if once you contact us and let us know that you're interested in working with us, we'll actually do an intake with you so we can talk about specifically what your son may need in order to help him navigate successfully through the process. All right. I think that's actually the last question that we have time for today. So I just want to note that on the screen right now, we have our upcoming webinars. We will not be redoing this webinar just based on the current series that we're in, but we will be posting it. So for all of those of you who thought that the webinar was great and you want to share with your friends, we'll post it over the next couple of days on our social media, and I ask that you share it amongst your network just so that no one's missing out on the information that we provided today. Again, I want to thank you all for joining myself, George, and Dr. Corgi. And on behalf of CPU, I want to thank you. Have a great day. Bye.